it used to be the separation of customer and employee. And that's where I think Slack again becomes such an innovative opportunity for us. Bring those together, merge those, and make it so that as humans, we're all empowered.
All right, what's up, everybody? Today we have an awesome episode. Bill Patterson, the EVP and General Manager of CRM applications at Salesforce, joins us. And so that's Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Essentials. Bill is responsible for really driving one of the most important cloud business units in the world. And I just really thoroughly enjoyed hearing Bill's conversation because it's just such an interesting time, right? Slack and Salesforce just merged. The way that we think about the customer experience is changing and evolving as technology is evolving and capabilities evolve. And I think Bill just really had spot on insight. Andrei, what were some of the highlights for you in this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Bill has a really clear understanding of the way that the sales profession is going to continue to change. It's just so unique to hear it from the person that's literally building the most important system that salespeople use day in and day out. And so getting that insight was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I think, what it really comes down to is, technology is helping us spend more time on the things that we are good at, higher creativity, higher connection activities, and less time on just all of the tedious manual but necessary things. And, as we kind of enter into this world where there's more data, there's more things to understand, there's more systems, it's such an opportunity for technology to help us understand what are the things that we don't know that can help us ultimately, be more successful, make our customers more successful, and drive better outcomes for everybody. So I really love this episode. Bill's an amazing guy. Let's get into it and hear from Bill. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Scott, thank you for having me here today.
It's great to have you here. Got really excited after I watched your episode of Human First with Nick from Gainsight. Love the human theme and just kind of a lot of the things that you guys have been talking about over at Salesforce over the past couple of years. But, just to kind of kick things off, did you ever think when you were younger that you would be running the CRM business at one of the biggest cloud companies in the world? I mean, quite an interesting career path that you've taken. I'd be interested to hear kind of what you wanted to be when you grew up.
No, I did not imagine that. I wanted to play second base for the Boston Red Sox. And it looks like, given my lack of hitting and lack of being able to actually make contact with a curveball, has made me a great GM here at Salesforce. So, I think we all envision something different, in our careers, and I'm just very fortunate every day and humbled every day to be where I am.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. I think a lot of us failed professional athletes have, somehow ended up in the software business. But
yeah, just don't tell my kids that because they think their dad is awesome, like in everything, and I definitely could not hit a curveball. And my sister had a better arm than I did, from second base. So it just worked out that I was pretty good at software.
Hey, you know what? The Sox need season ticket holders or box seats people too.
I get support in other ways. That's right.
That's exactly right. And so, Bill, we're catching you at an incredibly interesting time in the world, in Salesforce's world, honestly. And I know that in just doing some of my homework and research, kind of the way that you've thought about work has evolved through all of this and through the pandemic. And so how has your view of, work and our relationship with it changed over the past year and a half?
Yeah, I think first off, it's a great question, and it's one that requires a lot of reflection through this time. And many of us don't have those moments of reflection, that maybe because our work and life and has changed so much, through this pandemic period. As kind of really spent more time, working with customers, working with employees, working with leaders and peers. And Nick Mehta, who's a friend, we talk about this a lot, where it really comes back to almost your core values of an individual for how you sort of see yourself, your role in the world, and the role that your organization can play really around, kind of helping us all manage through. Myself personally, my core values are pretty simple. They're my family. And yes, I'm a better coach than sometimes a dad in this case, but my family is number one. Accountability is number two, and helpfulness is number three. And I leaned mostly in the pandemic on this value of helpfulness. And I think specifically technology has such a role to sort of help us navigate through a world of complexity that many of us have never navigated. Data, access to data to make better decisions, being able to do great interactions with people over these virtual medium like podcasts, webcasts, video calls. These things weren't possible in the last pandemic, but they are highly possible today. And it's allowed many of us in this field to sort of be able to navigate through. I've leaned on this value of helpfulness specifically to really look at our role as a leader to create the innovation needed to sort of help us keep our families safe, our kind of businesses safe, and society's reopening to the best that they can, given the health state that we are in around the world. And I think that that's all of us, that we sort of need to live in purpose of others right now, not just self. And that's really kind of where a lot of us have spent our energy.
I know Salesforce had some specific programs that they had done during the pandemic. I would be interested in understanding, what did you guys learn, and which of those programs is going to persist now that we're coming out of it?
Yeah. We've always believed that business is the biggest platform for change, right? I mean, so full stop, period, sentence, maybe exclamation point, depending on who you're speaking to. But, I think specifically, when the pandemic hit, the first response we had was, we know our technology is a platform for good, and we need to get into the hands as many people as possible. We created a program called Salesforce Care, which had, I think at the time, over 70,000 companies came to Salesforce for some degree of technology relief, whether that was standing up a call center in your kitchen, or whether that was standing up a new set of portals to offer guidance to your employees for what does reopening mean for my business, my industry, my customers, et cetera. That was a moment of action. And we really saw, I think, Salesforce become a leader in terms of this, kind of more the workplace reopening kind of experiences, workplace close and shift, and then reopening experiences that have occurred. Salesforce Care became the foundation for a product that we created called Work.com. And Work.com really started to innovate on key areas of value, like what does business scheduling mean for managing, kind of space and distance into physical locations. It was also about, new protocols for training and protocols for contact tracing that many businesses need to sort of embark upon in partnership with public health like never before, that I think were fantastic uses of our platform to show how we can become a glue for guiding safe business operations. And then finally, as we learn more of the reopening experience, and as we learned a little bit more that business, as it gets into this new mode of work, kind of led us into a path of thinking about the virtual HQ and working from anywhere as a strategy. And obviously that's where, kind of the strategy of Salesforce and Slack really started to present itself as a unique opportunity for our time, not just as a pandemic, kind of endeavor, but really what work will look like in the future. So where a lot of, kind of businesses maybe were stagnant, we were very energized to, one, use our platform for good, to become a platform for change, to become a platform of tomorrow, to sort of help us, kind of guide our own craft moving forward.
Let's talk about kind of the demands of, being a competitive employer and what that looks like. The kind of empowerment model, as you described earlier, perhaps has shifted. And I think it's something that all businesses need to consider if they want to attract the best talent and moreover, get the best performance of the existing people at their company.
Yeah, just unpacking it a little bit. I've never thought about being a competitive employer. I always want to be the best employer. And that subtlety, sort of matters here, right? Which is when I think about what does it mean to be the best employer, it is thinking about that empowerment of the employees that you have that work for you. We used to live in a world of work-life balance, and then we moved to a world of work-life integration. And now we're sort of in this world of work-life harmony, which is really thinking about, your role in your community, your extended family that's spread everywhere. Like those are new demands that maybe weren't mainstream for a lot of us. We have to think about that new harmonization of how we allow our employees to sort of operate. I think that's about deep empowerment that we allow our employees to sort of think about. The second is on this new horizon. I think with that empowerment is a new enablement kind of factor that we sort of have to think about. And you imagine in a world that I have deep passion for, like sales and sales technologies, you used to shake hands to cement a deal and to say, I trust you for delivering on the product or service promise that you've made to me through our selling cycle. Well, today we're oftentimes physically removed. So you can't, kind of break bread over dinner. You can't shake hands to kind of cement a relationship. And everything is sort of digital in this touchless kind of way to really create an intimate relationship with those that you kind of do business with. And I think that means new skills need to be created. New skills need to emerge. New skills need to be developed. And I think about this culture of enablement is more important than ever before. And finally, kind of this last area of engagement, like we talk about Slack as a strategy, I think we're going to expect that, there is this world of always on and always available, but somewhat boundaried, that we're going to have to really embrace, that means that, between innings in my kid's Little League game, I'm answering calls or I'm answering Slack posts, that sort of allow me to integrate my life in a way that is comfortable to me on my terms, and not just the terms that may have been set for me. So I'm not always that alliterative between, kind of empowerment and
the three E's, baby,
and engagement. but I do think that sort of, really reflects a lot of the customer conversations I'm having right now, which is, people need to give a little bit of more permission in their lives and permission in their work to thrive. And I think that's certainly kind of where my emphasis is at as a leader here at Salesforce.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just given what our business does, the engagement component with Slack is something that's near and dear. And I think Salesforce, you guys have always been about just providing a best in class customer experience to every single person that you interact with. I think with the Slack merger where, information is more real time, it's more open, it's more available. What does that future look like with the combined entities? Where do you see the customer winning and getting a better experience with the addition of such an amazing kind of tool that so seamlessly can be integrated into the internal employee's life?
Yeah, one of the things that I get so much energy from is really kind of thinking about these islands of opportunity coming together. You have on one end, Salesforce or like Sales Cloud, the number one platform that companies expect to help them drive growth, and Slack, which is the number one platform for where enterprises and organizations across organizational boundaries can engage. And now what you sort of think about this harmony of these two worlds coming together, you have a real opportunity to not only drive great process and business operational excellence, along with great communication and breaking down boundaries. Those two kind of opportunities coming together means that the next wave of productivity happens with a whole closed loop of ecosystem coming together. Slack technology is really unique. Not only has it helped us break down the complexity of applications in our world, and the work that you guys do at Troops is a real testament to this, which is you sort of can dip into your HR system, dip into your CRM system, dip into your ERP system, dip into your website to kind of consistency of information to drive a resolution of an issue. Imagine now it's not just apps you're doing that with, it's across organizations that you can do that with. And so you're working with your customers to collaborate on deals, working with your partners to kind of arrive and show up, with a unique combined value proposition, that's where I think incredible power happens. And the best part, you're not doing that. You can do it all virtually, right? You're doing it in a world that is all digital.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's just so fascinating to see this immense potential of these worlds coming together for just driving business, better business. And that's what I'm like so excited to innovate in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a couple of points. I mean, first off, I think Slack really does humanize just the way business is done. And we even see this in working with you guys. I mean, what do you do with your best friends? If you're sending text messages, right? You're having quick, informal communication to arrive at outcomes quickly, make plans, whatever it is. And I think things like Slack Connect that are external outside of your organization facilitate that in an organized way that's never really been possible before. Then I think things get really exciting when you start to add that layer of integration and data on top of it. And I'll give you a cool example. We're actually in a Slack Connect channel with the Salesforce App Exchange team, the ISV team at Salesforce. And we have integrated using our product and our Salesforce every single time a deal gets uploaded, that now automatically gets communicated to the entire ISV team. And in a way that's completely streamlined, completely automated, and is providing visibility that before, I would have to remember to record the information, send an email, hope it got forwarded to the right people. Did everybody see it? I mean, there's just a lot of potential error there for visibility, collaboration to really kind of drive the best outcomes. And so I'm 100% with you. I think the art of the possible for, internal and having like connected ecosystem it's a proven and it's exciting, but when you start to go external, it even gets more exciting. And I know you guys are going to be at the very, very forefront of it.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you for sharing, kind of how you're using Slack, kind of collaborating with our team. And I agree. I couldn't agree more that the Slack experience that sort of brings people together in a way that is across boundaries and in organizations is so unique. And it's also persistible. I mean, I can't tell you how the way it used to be when I would get added to like an email thread after everyone has already collaborated. Do you think I've ever read through all those other emails? I never did.
No one's clicking show more.
Yeah, no one ever did that. And so you just like, I never have to with Slack have to go summarize this thread for me. Like, I don't know what's going on. So I love that, Slack makes that much more engaging. It gives me the history on my terms. It lets me kind of opt into kind of that historical perspective, but more importantly, invites me to be part of the process. And I think that is sort of, again, as you think about, kind of the from to state of where businesses can go, specifically in this highly distributed world, I think that, we need to just use smart technology to become more digitally intimate with one another. And I think Slack is a great metaphor to make that happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. The other thing that I, was interested in getting your perspective on. So you're at the forefront of innovation with Sales Cloud, with Service Cloud. And, we talk a lot about there's AI, there's bots, there's messaging. I mean, there's all of these things kind of coming together. Where do you think the big opportunities are moving forward in the sales and service technology ecosystem that you're very excited about?
Yeah, I think too often the last era that we've been in for technology is sort of using digital tools to become a barrier between a human and their customer. You imagine, things like, chat and chat experiences or bot and bot experiences. They've sort of been, or even self-service kind of websites. They've sort of been, kind of used technologies to sort of give you what we think you need but hopefully you don't actually create a direct interaction with the human, because that's a costly affair for a lot of businesses. And that's a service domain kind of proposition. Same thing about sales. If a salesperson's spending all their time with someone who's quote unquote a tire kicker and not really serious about products and services, that's opportunity cost, for a seller. I think what we will see, and the big innovation I'm excited to sort of pioneer and lead here at Salesforce is a better blend for where automation technology can come in and serve you at the moments that are primitive moments in a relationship, but freeing up enough capability and freeing up enough capacity for humans to come in and have those highly emotional or highly relational or highly value added based experiences. And we see this, kind of interestingly on sales and service technologies, maybe a little bit differently, but in the same kind of meta sense of enabling people. On service, most of the time when you call a call center, you've exhausted your ability to kind of solve the problem yourself. And the thing that really makes customers irate is when you actually make finally a contact with a human agent and they ask you to do all those 10 steps again. Why recreate that world of repetitiveness for customers to make them more irate? Why not, kind of have the historical data in your hands as an agent and sort of have context to know where you've been to then know where to take you forward? That kind of curated, kind of value added experience is something I'm really excited for in service technology to make every human interaction a great one. Same thing on the sales side. Most customers today have access to information already in their hands, whether it be publicly available information about your products and services, friends of friends or friends of family who've already used your products.
Yep.
There's so much perspective that is already, kind of accessible to us that maybe was not, kind of there prior. And so when a prospect shows up into a seller's hands or seller's situation, they're more informed than they've ever been before. And sometimes they've already made their purchase decision. And a sales rep's job is to either understand kind of the value added experiences there. This is where technology has to be in service of our employees better, because you have a more informed populace, you have a more informed customer, you have a more informed set of circumstances that are leading you to sales and service interactions. That means you kind of need to use technology to make everyone great. Customers themselves, employees, and how they serve and sell. And I think that's really where, the combination of tactics, whether it's tools for training, tools for AI to guide, or even kind of workflow to automate, I think that's where you'll see a lot of innovation from us, around this next horizon of work.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. We're kind of at this juncture where customers have more data than ever. Theoretically, businesses should have more data than ever available to them, assuming they have, connected applications. And really almost the problem becomes, are we getting the right data at the right time in that moment of need to our internal team so that they can have as thoughtful of an interaction as possible?
Yeah, sadly, I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me personally, where I do a lot of research. If I'm making a purchase, or for a product and service, I'll walk in with my knowledge and I'll ask, questions of an associate, or I'll ask questions of an agent or a technician, and I'll say, what do you think about, this specification item? And they're like, I didn't even know that existed. Where'd you get that data? Show me that. And I'm often pulling data from YouTube, or I'm pulling data from a website, or some kind of net, kind of community online forum of users that have self-aggregated and aligned. And so, yes, I think today consumers are more connected, more informed than ever before. And sadly, sometimes the employees and the businesses systems are just not keeping up with the times. And that's where I think our opportunity at Salesforce is to really bring this modernization effect, bring this world of, it used to be the separation of customer and employee. And that's where I think Slack again becomes such an innovative opportunity for us. Bring those together, merge those, and make it so that as humans, we're all empowered. But the added value of what a Salesforce provides in that experience is the added enrichment, the added association, the added connection of other data to make that, a much more guided and value-added experience. So I definitely see just this world of enterprise software and consumer software kind of in many ways converging, but also the responsibility of enterprise software is to tell me something I didn't ask you. Tell me some value-added experience that you didn't, come in here with an opinion on, or if you have that opinion, let me make it a more informed opinion with open the aperture of more data I can provide to you.
Yeah, and Bill, really what you're describing kind of sounds like the right? The conversations that sales reps are going to be having with customers are just kind of taking an entire step up, right? Or as well as service, right? It's a different level of expertise. It's more strategic. It's more nuanced. I guess my question to you is, as we continue to talk about the way that the sales role is changing, what are some things that you're already noticing are helping certain reps stand out in this new environment in reality?
Yeah, I think the metrics that sales professionals need to be thinking about today are more of the engagement variety than of the data tracking variety than we saw maybe prior to the pandemic. And when we talk about an engaged sales representative, what we talk about are not just the number of calls that you make, but the number of quality conversations that you have, the velocity of how you're managing, kind of your pipeline, how fast you're kind of moving through your selling cycle, not what stage is this opportunity at specifically. You're looking at what are the repeat patterns of purchases, not just selling for the first time to a customer, but how are you growing your relationship, after that initial interaction occur? These are new metrics that you're starting to see enter into the hands of sales teams, and modern sales leaders are starting to really challenge themselves to say, we need to think different about the way we manage our organizations. When I started my career, I actually worked in the sales contact center. So back to Scott, to your point, I didn't imagine that was where it would end either before.
Thankfully not.
Thankfully not. But I was measured on how many calls I made in an hour. Can you imagine that today? Like, how many calls do you make in an hour is really your metric that matters? If I got 10 calls from a salesperson, I would never call them back. It just is overwhelming to me. So it's about that quality, that intimacy, that real value exchange, and expanding that relationship that I think becomes the new way that sales teams and sales leaders kind of have to start thinking.
Yeah, it's interesting because there is a lot of technology out there that tries to measure more or less like efficacy of communication. Did someone reply to my email? How quickly did they reply to my email? All of these different nuances. But I don't know that, and we have a great customer in this customer apps flyer where they actually have a concept of key relationships, and then they score on a scale of 1 to 5, like the CSM, like a qualitative input of, if I text this person, like, will they text me back type of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we've like fully found a way to just kind of quantify using purely technology, the strength of relationship, which is so important for things like risk, forecasting, all these different things that are ultimately outputs. But we should be able to. And I feel like we're not that far away with things like sentiment analysis. I know you guys have, the call recording products. And yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a huge thing that hopefully will be solved or have a better solution for in the coming future.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think there are explicit signals that today's technology sort of give you, because a lot of it is off of persistent data, and we take these explicit signals and try and make implicit kind of activity on top of it. Like you said, the strength of a relationship based on whether you reply or not to me. Honestly, I'm just a punctual person. I'm going to reply back to you if you text me. It doesn't mean that I trust you. It doesn't mean that I want to be with you. And so I kind of feel like there's a lot of error in today's kind of world. The other thing I really think about in an area we're sort of pioneering some new innovation on right now is this notion of visual engagement in the meetings that we're in. You can imagine if we're talking and you're nodding and your party, along with the conversation that we're having, I can tell, that we're engaged, and I can tell that we're having a great dialogue. But if I see someone who turns their camera off, or I see someone who's looking down, because that's like the text head that kind of looking down on, or are multitasking and are really disconnected. Like, technology has all access to these signals that are also not of the unsaid action that I think also we need to be mining into to guide, kind of better guidance. So prompting me to stop talking is just as well as prompting me on what to say. And I think those are also great, kind of ways that we can be innovating with these modern means of engagement that really, I think, guide the great sales, opportunities of tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. I also think there's a lot there that can be done with Slack, that implicitly by just understanding the engagement and sentiment patterns of the kind of shared channels between customers. And we just see it, in our business and a lot of businesses that we sell to, where they just know if they're able to get a Slack Connect channel that has, X amount of people invited that are having X amount of interactions a day, that's going to be a conversation that's more likely to go well than someone that's not in that position.
Totally. I'm a big believer that the more we can move from relationships to kind of smaller ecosystems of relationships, the more strength and it's kind of that strength in numbers, drives a relationship kind of posture. I think that's where some immense potential kind of exists. And like you said, the more density you have in a channel, because more people are engaged, you're not selling to a person anymore. You're selling to a group. You're selling to a collective. Yep. And you're allowing kind of that trusted relationship to establish across multiple parties, which is really cool. I think that's such a great opportunity for us to keep innovating in.
So, Bill, just to kind of switch gears a little bit and get a little bit more personal, I admire what you've done in your career, and I know there's quite a journey to go still. But what was the biggest inflection point for you personally?
Well, first off, are you calling me a young man, Scott? That's the most flattering comment I've gotten all day, that I have plenty of room to grow in my career.
Hey, we're just getting started, man. Hopefully.
I live my life off my core values, and I've lived my career in the same way. On the basis of where I innovate and the basis of where I think my responsibility in this kind of world is, it's really to create innovation, and it's really to unleash the potential of others, and maximize the potential of others. And in many ways, it's sort of being selfless, for technology's use in the world. But in other ways, it's sort of, trust me, I get just as much from it, and charged by it, by seeing, organizations do things that they didn't think were possible, when we can wow them with this innovative potential. So I'm always going to kind of drive myself in those areas and drive my teams in those areas. And that's why I love working with you guys, because I think you see the world the same way. And I think you see at Troops, a new potential for empowering humans. Obviously, you wouldn't have a podcast with this name if you didn't. But I do think that's sort of, what brings, the next great innovators together, is those are doing it for an impact for other people.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of the things I've always just admired about Salesforce is that, what's good for the world is good for business. And, I call it karma, call it whatever you want. But I believe a happy, engaged society is one that is a productive one. And that's a team effort. Just admire so much what you guys have done. I guess the last question I have for you is, if you could give yourself advice, 20 years ago, when you were earlier in your career, what would it be?
I think I would probably advise myself to continue to be a learn first person and not a know-it-all person. And I think that, the more that we can live with this thirst for enrichment and thirst for challenging our established dogma that's in our minds, we all sort of can unlearn just as quickly as we can learn. I've never believed in the phrase "an old dog can't learn new tricks." My dog maybe lives up to that quite well, but I just believe differently, that we have an opportunity and responsibility with technology around us to unlearn things that we thought we knew, because at the time it was contextual that we created a lot of things. It was purpose built that we created a lot of things. And we don't always have the foresight to know how things will adapt and grow. But our willingness to step into the unknown a little bit more and learn in those moments allows us to create incredible solutions to problems that aren't just for the now, but like endure, right? So to me, I'd probably give myself that advice, learn more, don't know it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. And I can't help but think about, I believe it might've been in the Nick episode, you referenced kind of like the power of constraints for creativity, but I can't help but think of this pandemic where all of these banks and everyone had 5-year digital transformation projects to let people work from home or whatever it is. Like that was the paradigm. And then you're kind of thrown into an environment where you have to evolve, or that whole rule set has changed. And lo and behold, here we are, companies months later figuring it out. And so I agree that a lot of times our programming so limits us, and really having that kind of beginner's mind can just be such a powerful mechanism for innovation.
Yeah. And I think all of those things are true. I think constraint, I think the fear of failure, like you get that out of your vernacular and know that, with every great failure is just, tomorrow's, solution. So I kind of just think that, as humans, we sort of need to fear less and, be excited about, what comes next.
Amen. Well, Bill, this has been awesome, man. We're so grateful to have you on the show. I know there's some people here that probably want to follow your work. Are you a Twitter guy? Are you LinkedIn? Where's the best way for people to stay connected to you?
Honestly, man, I don't know. Twitter, yes, I'm on there. I think I posted on Instagram, 2 years ago. I'm on Facebook. I'm so busy between my work and my life that I don't always keep up, in those domains. But Twitter's probably the best way. I'm at B Patter there, and if you engage with me there, I might reply back once in a while.
Well, thanks again, man. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next show.